This week, Corey, Keon, Anthony, Haley, and I will be taking our wooden desk product global. Today we will be discussing which global markets we're tapping into, their performance cycle structure, transportation, operational considerations, information systems integration, alliances, financial growth, and our conclusions and references for all the information presented.
While there are many opportunities for all of the international markets mentioned by leadership, we believe that Canada would make the most sense to expand into. Canada has many markets in which they are leaders in North America, one being lumber. Specifically, West Fraser and Canfor dominate North America in softwood production. Expanding into the Canadian market has many benefits that we will discuss throughout this presentation, some including growing our customer base throughout North America, increased accessibility to raw materials used to make our desks, and multiple inexpensive ways to transport both raw materials and finished products.
My name is Corey Bryant, and I'm going to be going over the performance cycle structure. So the cycle structure in Canada is extremely similar to the United States because of the similarity between the two countries. Some advantages are that there's a very easy border crossing between the two countries compared to other countries. There's an all land route, so there aren't any delays that come through sea travel. And the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, as we'll discuss later with alliances, makes it much easier to transport goods. The disadvantage is that it's very similar to the United States, so it may be difficult to find ways that make it beneficial.
As a reminder, our previous transportation of raw materials included both flight and truck. This global expansion has some transportation advantages. The first being geographical proximity. With the US and Canada sharing the longest land border in the world, transportation distances are relatively short, reducing shipping times and costs compared to importing wood from other countries. Also, fuel efficiency. Shorter shipping distances, especially for trucking and rail, can result again in lower transportation costs and reduced fuel consumption. Both countries also have well-developed infrastructure, including highways, railways, ports, making it relatively easy and reliable to move wood products between Canada and the US. Some disadvantages to consider with this expansion include the following. The first, transportation modes. Depending on the type of wood product, transportation could involve a combination of trucks, rail, and sometimes ships, which can increase logistical complexity. Different transportation modes also introduce various costs like fuel, handling fees, and infrastructure use. Also, border delays. Despite trade agreements, customs inspections and border procedures can still cause delays and increase costs. Any disruptions at the border could impact the timely delivery of wood products. However, this is also a consideration with any international border. Next is tariffs and trade policy. While the USMCA generally favors free trade, changes in U.S. trade policy or tariffs on Canadian lumber can make wood from Canada more expensive and subject to political risk. Again, a risk with most international borders. Lastly is weather and seasonal constraints, especially in the winter months. The transportation of wood can be affected by seasonal weather conditions in the northern regions where winter storms and icy conditions can impact road or rail transportation. Now to discuss some rough numbers. To ship raw wood from Canada to the US, depending on where specifically in both countries, can range from 1 to 8 days to receive in the US, which is fairly quick compared to our last plan. As for shipping, weight, and prices, Canadian lumber companies tend to have lower prices for bulk products. As a reminder, our desks are about 45 pounds a piece, meaning that we would definitely be needing to ship our materials in bulk. Specific prices are difficult to finalize without knowing the supply, demand, exchange rate at the time of sales, and policies at the time.
When it comes to globalizing our product to Canada, there are multiple operational considerations that we must be prepared for. The first relates to making sure that we have multiple languages for our product and documentation. This includes translating our product manual and also translating our transportation and customs documentation. The good thing about Canada is the majority of the country speaks English. However, we will likely have to translate these items into French as well, as there is a large population in Canada that speaks French. Another consideration revolves around the performance features, technical characteristics, environmental considerations, and safety requirements. The main one we're worried about here is the environmental considerations, given the different environmental agencies that are located in Canada. Additionally, there's multiple international operations documentation that we may need that we didn't need when we were shipping just domestically. This can include a letter to credit, bill of lading, a combined transport document, commercial invoices, insurance certifications, and a certificate of origin. Implementing a transportation management system would help manage these documents. The last operation consideration that many global companies have to deal with revolves around counter trade and duty drawback. However, we don't anticipate this being an issue as we are requiring cash transactions rather than counter trade, and we don't anticipate having any duty drawback. Alliances are essential when it comes to international operations. This helps eliminate the need for expertise necessary to maintain contracts with carriers, specialized service providers, retailers, wholesalers, manufacturers, suppliers, and other service providers. Below are 3 key alliances that we look to make in order to ensure our success in the Canadian market. First, we need to create alliances with our key suppliers, including logging companies and mills, to make sure that we can meet strict sustainability requirements set aside by the Canadian government. Additionally, we need to establish an alliance with the export company, which will allow for easier product shipment across the border. They can help us navigate trade agreements and customs. And lastly, an alliance that we've already set up through our sales in the US market is with a retailer, that being Walmart. They have 400 store locations across Canada that can help support our future sales of our desk. When it comes to financial growth, I want to cover a few main points. First of all, our units sold is going to increase drastically from year 1 to year 2 as we globalize our product into the country of Canada. This will allow us to recognize economies of scales and achieve the cost out targets that we had previously presented in our financials. Let's talk about a few main points. So our raw material wood, we expect to be able to gain a better price purchasing that material, as Canada is one of the leading producers of this raw material. Additionally, with our increased volume, we expect to receive price breaks as we are buying more material. From a facilities perspective, we expect to double our cost in facilities as we build a manufacturing plant across the border. From an inbound freight perspective, we also expect to see a reduced cost here as we will have this manufacturing plant closer to where we're purchasing that raw material. And finally, from a packaging perspective, we do expect our packaging prices to go up slightly as a result of having to translate into the French language. However, the additional material that we'll be buying here will virtually net off this cost. As we compare the financials to our previous presentation where we talked just about US growth, you can see that we'll see a larger uptick in sales quicker as we expand from year 1 to year 2 into the Canadian market. While the overall product profit margin remains relatively flat, we expect to sell more and ultimately bring more raw profit dollars in as a result of the increased production as well as the reduced costs that we'll be seeing as we globalize our product.
So for our conclusion, we want to answer the question, is it a good idea to expand into Canada? For us, the answer is yes. We believe that there are a number of opportunities in Canada for more customers, as well as broadening the places that we can get materials that will make Canada a good place to expand to. And if there is a good future for other international markets? We believe so, but we want to make sure that we are sure on Canada and the United States before we expand to other places. But we do believe that there are opportunities for that in the future.
We appreciate you taking the time today to listen to how we plan to take this manufacturing of our desk global. On this slide is a list of references that we used in the completion of this presentation. Thank you.